Hello, my name is Christina Gallo. I'm the producer of Siren Songs. I am here with the lovely Monica Chu, one of our great composers of the project, and this is Meet the Artist.
Hi, Christina. Thanks so much for having me. Greetings from Oakland.
Hello. All right. So, first off, how did you get your start composing? How did you start off?
I started composing late in life. I was around 40, I think. I'm 46 now. Is that right? Yes. So I've been playing piano since I was 5, so basically all my life. And if you've ever studied classical piano, it's kind of a strange tradition where you only study other people's scores, and your job as an artist is to render those scores as accurately and authentically as possible. And although there's a little bit of performance practice and improvising, say, a cadenza or something for a Baroque or classical piece, it's not really encouraged in most of standard repertoire, we'll call it, to like go off and do your own thing. In fact, your dedication to the printed dynamics and expressions of the score are actually considered really important. And so when I was 40, I quit my job as a software engineer and with no real plan, except I wanted to play a lot of music because I hadn't had a lot of time to just play a lot of music. And so I started doing that and giving lots of recitals, and then realizing that my work was not relevant unless I included new music. Like, of course, I love Bach and Beethoven and all those people who are long gone, but I really felt like a huge part of my education was missing and not doing contemporary music. And I wanted to have a bigger voice in presenting that by writing music. And I had this typical engineer hubris thinking like, well, how hard could it be? Like, I've played music all my life, but what would be the big deal if I just decided to write some? And in some ways that's true. And in some ways that's incredibly not true. So yeah, that's my start. I basically self-educated. I have a lot of conservatory education in performance, but not so much in composition.
Mhm.
I would actually love it if all classical musicians wrote their own stuff and played their own stuff and sang their own stuff, just like people used to do that. And if you were a jazzer, like, it would be unthinkable never to write your own tunes. So why not?
Yeah,
What's the worst that could happen?
what's the worst that can happen? Definitely. So, what motivates you to write a piece? And I know that there's sort of the commissions and like that sort of thing, but I guess what sort of draws you to certain commissions other more than others?
Well, when you announced that you were doing this project, I thought it sounded really exciting because I love I love the sea. I love stories around the sea, and of course, there's all tons of very famous music around mermaids and sirens and Revel Undine and all this stuff. And um, I haven't written vocal music for very long, actually. So I just started getting into opera and art song really just last year. And I had such a great experience working with librettists um, that I thought that it would be a really fun thing to just co-create something musical for you and Jackie with a poet whose work I really admired. And so I reached out to Megan Cohen, who I was in an online aria writing workshop with, courtesy of Really Spicy Opera, which is a really great organization that is geared towards education in opera writing.
Mhm.
Um, that I thought it would be really fun to reach out to you and her and try to see if we could collaborate.
And collaborate we are doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how would you describe your work, which is kind of like a loaded question just because, there's many different sides to composers. It's hard to like fit everybody into a genre or something, but how would you describe your music to somebody?
Well, I play all sorts of music, and part of the joy of taking this new music journey that I started 5 years ago has been just opening my eyes and ears to different sounds that aren't really in 19th or 18th or even 20th century music. So we're beyond that now, and um, I would say that I'm very curious and hungry for new sounds and musical ideas as both a performer and a composer. And when I hear something I really like, I try to adopt it. So and that doesn't mean that I do it, just for any random person or project. I try to think hard about the person that I'm writing for, which is you, and um, the context of the program, which you have control over, and it happens to be this great theme, Siren Songs, and and also I got together with Megan, and we just had a really fun brainstorming session about different kinds of pieces that we could write, and just sort of like came up with a bunch of ideas. I mean, as usual, when you're working with somebody who's really great and creative like Megan is, there's never a shortage of good ideas. It's always like, oh, which one of our babies do we want to pick to execute, which is maybe the wrong word in this context. But it's like every piece that I work on is tailored for a person and project, because otherwise, I mean, it's really hard to write for a generic vacuum. So I'm always happy when someone new reaches out to get to work with them.
Got it, got it. You want the person to inform the piece rather than the piece to inform like the person.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which I think is awesome. I think it leads to a lot of creativity, and at least when I've listened to your work, that's kind of struck me as well. So what would you say are your top three musical influences on your work? Um,
Hmm. I'm not really quite sure how to answer that. But I'm always looking for new music. Um, I get a lot, I got a lot out of hearing, of course, performances,
mhm.
but also, I get a lot out of, I'm kind of a news junkie. So
Nice.
I think about current events constantly, you know, I don't even want to mention politics. It's
Oh gosh.
and and climate change. I mean, the first piece that I sent you, Hot Plastic Love,
Yeah.
kind of it's a bop, but it's clearly, it's got references to pollution and what we're doing to the earth, and you know,
Yeah, and environmentalism, it is like inherently political at this
it
point.
is,
I
it is.
think that, you can't really avoid touching on that topic just because of the way the
Oh,
world
and
is.
I wouldn't want to avoid it. I mean, I also just wrote a song about in honor of Kevin McCarthy's 15 failed votes for House speakership. so, I am fairly contemporary with a lot of my uh themes. Um Sometimes I write I mean, I think maybe this is just me, but even when I play music that doesn't have an explicit program, I'm always thinking of the story,
Yeah.
even if the composer doesn't link it to anything, because um it's just a way to connect with the music and help focus my the arc and all that stuff. So
Yeah, yeah.
um yeah. So
No, and I relate to that, especially the sort of story aspect where it's just like at least I think that I'm also similar in that way where you try where you build a narrative around something, even if it's just like, even a symphonic piece can have like, a narrative, or, and even if it wasn't the original intention, I think it makes sense because like that's the way my brain works. It wants a story, it wants a theme, it wants like beginning, middle, end.
I mean, even a vocalese with no text has a character.
Yeah.
So it's part of your job as as an artist to sort of like figure out what that is and exploit it. So yeah.
Definitely. Awesome. Awesome. So, talk to me about COVID Bake Off because that was one of the pieces that I saw, and I was just like, I need to talk to this person. I need to speak with this individual immediately.
That was a really fun project that I did with a different librettist, Sandra Flores Strand, and that collaboration also grew out of really spicy opera. And Sandra, that program basically pairs up composers and librettists and gives them a prompt and like a 24-hour turnaround period. Ludicrous. I think the way it worked was we met on Friday afternoons. Sandra would give me a text by like somewhere between 10 and noon the next day, and then we'd both show up on Sunday to a feedback session with the program organizers, and then we'd have like 1 or 2 days to do revisions, and then the singers would get it on Wednesday and then do a remote reading recording session, and then we'd all meet back on Friday and start the cycle again. So it was really intense and really fun. And so Sandra and I, just like the very first day, like we're thrown into a room together and started talking about things we like, which included baking, and things that we don't like, which included COVID
Like
and,
everybody.
incompetent men who rise to success through villainy. So that was the story. And we just had like 1 week together, and then like the rest of the weeks were paired with other people. And then I had applied to an opera writing program in called Operation Opera. That was in June of that year. This was all taking place in April, and just decided with Sandra like it would be really fun to extend our first song into like a scene, and then maybe, and then my friend, my other composer friend, produced a concert in October, basically where she invited us to contribute 20 minutes of music. And so Sandra and I just like, okay, we'll do one act, and we can get it all done in the space of like writing and everything done within 6 months. And that was actually great because unlike you, I'm very unskilled at producing, and I need external deadlines and
Oh no. But the like
um
it's a compliment, thank you, but like I don't deserve that, thank you.
it's so much nicer when somebody else does part of the work and imposes like these timelines. So that's how that project sort of went, which was really fun. And um we're planning another collaboration hopefully next year. So,
Awesome.
but not a comedy. It'll be, well, I don't know. It could be a comedy. It could be a
Yeah.
horror comedy. Who knows?
Who
Who
knows?
knows what will happen? So yeah.
Definitely. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to hear it and see it if you like film it or something. I would.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Um, so how has being a pianist influenced your work? I think you touched on this a little bit earlier, but
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of just like a big part of my life, and it's how I learned music. I mean, I do other things too. Like I used to play, I don't even know if I should admit this. I used to play violin back in middle school, and that was very educational. And I don't play anymore because it's a terrible sound if you're a bad violinist to just have like right here.
I also played violin. I played violin in elementary school and I was really bad at it because I never practiced. And
Yeah, exactly. So of course I would never practice. I'm not going to practice. So I have a violin and it's actually really useful for just doodling around if I need to write some string music. But piano is hard to escape.
Mhm.
It's like this thing that even every other instrumentalist is expected to have a keyboard literacy,
Right.
especially composers. So in some ways it's been really fortunate, and then in some ways it's really like terrifying because I'm a pianist and I've studied a ton of piano music, and there's been more music written for piano than any other single instrument, just because everyone plays piano
Yeah.
and everyone's got a piano or a keyboard or whatever, and it is extremely hard to feel like you're contributing anything that somebody else hasn't already said in a more uh beautiful or efficient or whatever way before. So yeah, I mean, I it's great, but also it's so the other thing about piano is that you don't have to breathe when you play piano. I mean,
That is
technically you have to
true.
breathe in real life, but um playing with singers and wind instruments, I think is vital
Hmm.
uh, to just keeping in touch with. Yes, it's good to breathe.
You kind of touched on this before, but why are you interested in this project, Siren Songs, specifically?
I've always been attracted to stories about mermaids or sirens and pieces about them, and the watery depths of the sea, which um, is kind of relatively unexplored, I feel. So there was a lot of creative ideas to mine from that, and of course, it's always great when working with a new person. And your previous projects seemed really cool, so I was excited to work with you.
Thank you. Right. And likewise, I mean, I'm super excited to be going on this journey with you as well as all the other composers. It's just it's going to be such a great ride, and I feel really really privileged to like be able to work with all of you and so excited.